Sun Valley to where?
Okay, so my area is from, I like to start in Sparks, but if you take Mill Street and McCarran and you stay inside, so you'd stay west of McCarran. So McCarran goes all the way kind of around and then it hits Pyramid. When it goes over Pyramid, it doesn't go into Spanish Springs, but it goes over the hill where you see the house on the hill that sits on the rocks, over that into Sun Valley. And then once it goes over Sun Valley, it kind of cuts down over UNR, and it goes all the way over to 2nd Street, Keystone. And from Keystone, it goes to 2nd Street. It kind of has a little jog. It looks like a big maple leaf almost, but it meets kind of past Mill and 2nd. There's like a little stub on it and kind of gets a little bit of the airport, but it's a nice little area, right? But they all have the same amount of people, don't they?
I'm not even sure about that because I'm not a politician. You and I got in this race. We got in our races kind of like by accident. Like this absolutely was nothing that we planned, but it came together well because we were at an event months ago and I saw you in the back row and I was on the wall and I was kind of spying at you and you were kind of looking at me and I was like, well, let's talk. And I was like, are you Trey Regas? Like everybody knows about you, but they don't know you. And you were so kind and you're like, yeah. And I was like, well, I heard this and this about you. You're like, nah, we don't do that anymore. Then I found out you had a flower shop and dad's here and mom's here. And then your sister is best friends with my sister. And it was like, oh my gosh, we have this whole new family that we didn't even know. So we have been connected by God. And this was meant to be.
Right.
So that is why we are doing this. And we've been attending many meetings together. And we found out that we have 11 precincts overlapping. So those 11 precincts, we're going to be hitting hard and letting people know that we are not corrupt career politicians. We are here to represent the people. And I got in my race because I was also running for county commissioner, but I was running for District 5 because I'm in Sun Valley, but it cuts off like at 9th Street. And so I happen to be in District 5, but I am on the Sun Valley Citizens Advisory Board District 3 because I was put on there with the 1 mile amendment by Garcia, who is Commissioner Garcia, who's your opponent. Mm-hmm. We all know Commissioner Garcia. She's known for great things like telling us you can walk with me or not, or just kind of giving herself raises from one board to the other. And the story that I got was you ended up in this election because something happened between you and her, and you ended up running against her.
Right. So we went in. What happened is Mike Clark is a Washoe County Commissioner, and he donated some money to the Reno Toy Run, which is a 501c3. And we've developed that over 30 years. At first, it wasn't a 501c3. We just kind of struggled, made some money. But in the last, I want to say it was 6 or 7 years ago, we made it a 501c3. So it made us eligible for funds from places like Washoe County. And so he donated $10,000. We went in to get the $10,000 and at first, everything was kind of smooth, and then there was a motorcycle club there called the Branded Few. Probably a lot of people like them, or don't like them, I don't know. But they've been in this town for over 50 years, and they're kind of started after World War II. But they have what they call a bent cross on their patch. Some people might say it's a swastika. I'll tend to believe them, because they've told me that for 30 years, and they didn't have to tell me that for 30 years. They could have told me from the beginning what it was. So I believe them. They also went into the Washoe County Commission meeting, a guy named Indian, who's actually an Indian, American Indian, and his grandma was born here. She's a basket weaver. Prior to World War II, they're on her baskets. Those baskets are in the Nevada Museum of Art, So the whole thing of them calling it out was kind of wrong. So we got in an argument. What happened originally is they took the money back from us. So it was like a $10,000 donation that was donated. Then it wasn't donated. And the 3 that were against it was Claire. It was Claire, it was Alexis Hill, and then it was Mariluz Garcia. And
what was their basis for taking it back?
Because they said it was a Nazi symbol, and we were Nazis, right? And so, Yeah,
That
and
sounds absolutely.
They're just throwing that word around
Well,
everywhere now.
yeah, but if you listen to some of the Democrats and what they do with Nazis, like look at Elon Musk. He was their hero, and then one day he worked with Trump, and he was a Nazi, right? So I'm just saying they painted on his cars. They were destroying them. You know, it's something they call everybody. You know, and I don't know. I studied history quite a bit, and to call someone a Nazi is pretty incredible. I can't imagine that anyone would do that. You're talking about someone who killed, I think it's 7.8 million Jews, right?
Maybe. So who specifically said that word?
Oh, yeah. I think Alexis Hill said it.
We can always go back to the minutes. I'd love to get through minutes. I dig it.
Mary Lou's joined it, and she never got off of it. So what happened is right off, the COC is kind of a voting power, too. We have over 1,000 motorcyclists.
And the COC is what?
The COC is Northern Nevada Confederation of Clubs, which means it's all motorcycle clubs in Northern Nevada.
Okay.
And it doesn't matter if you're a women's club, a men's club, black club, a brown club. None of that matters. It's all the clubs.
And that's
together.
what I went to at the clubhouse.
Right.
And there was it was super cute because there was girls over here in pink, and there was girls over here, and then everybody stood up and was very well represented. It was like a meeting they have in the county commissioners. It wasn't bikinis and yelling and you would think, oh, I was at the Hells Angels clubhouse. It was a party. No, it was a very organized meeting. It was very respectful, and I was just amazed, you know, that people have this concept and this perception of you that's so misguided. And I hope that they give you the opportunity, because I've talked to people oh, you talk to Trump? I'm yeah, you should talk to him. Oh, I would never why not?
Honestly, it's probably one key reason. It's just the name.
Yeah,
so puts fear in them.
So this is the issue with me, though. If you really want to talk about it, I first started getting harassed by the police department when I was 10 years old, just for my last name. It had nothing to do with the name Hells Angels. So as I grow up, I don't think a lot of people realize, and I go to high school, and a lot of people from Reed will tell you this. I used to get pulled over 4 to 6 times a day, every single day of my life. My grandfather was dying. I was 16 or 17, and he was dying in St. Mary's. I lived in Sparks, and I would leave from Reed High because I had to go watch him for 4 hours. That was part of my job. And I would get pulled over, and the guy would say, "Don't worry, someone's going to pull you over down the road, and we know where you're going." And that would happen all the way there and happen all the way back. And I would go to, back when they had that little court right there on Nugget Avenue in the little brick building, I would go to court, and I was 16, 17 years old with 50 tickets at a time. And none of them were moving violations. None of them. They were for parking in front of my mother's house. My mother would go in and she would just have a cow. Like it was kind of this is all you guys do to my son. You just pull him over and harass him. And just to give you an idea, those tickets would be improper blinker, touch the yellow line, improper blinker, parked wrong.
Super tedious.
Yeah, and they went on and on. So if you look at the history of my life and all the people, they're so scared of me, it's, I think, because the cops made me out to be this figure that I never was. And like I said, I never had an issue with the cops. But if you take from the time I'm 10 and to today, I have been convicted of 1 crime. But that's it, 1.
So when they say, oh, you're this big criminal, you have this criminal organization, what have you actually been charged for?
And that's what I say to them all the time. What have I done wrong? So there's a couple of police officers that are now coming out. They're all apologizing, like Hanty, who tried to kill one of our members. He tried to kill me once. Green, which was a detective from Washoe County, and he was I want to say, deputized in maybe the FBI and or gang, whatever. And he's came out and said, in 25 years of watching him, we never saw that he ever did anything wrong. And so when you want to talk about that time and the 25 years that he watched me, you're talking just so you know, I had a court case with him, and my complaint was I caught him trespassing on my property 150 times in 1 year. So there's only 65 days in a year. So
every other day he was practically
every
there,
other
like-
day he was on my property. But he'll tell you, they had wires, they had bugs, they went through my garbage every week, and they had people that were around me, and they never found that because I wasn't doing anything wrong. And one time I get in an argument with him. I'm like, dude, why are you here? What is it I do wrong? And he was like, well, you beat someone up. And I was like, you mean the guy that had the bottle that tried to hit me with it? And he goes, yeah. I go, well, don't you think some people deserve to get beat up? And he goes, well, in that case, he did, and it was like,
all of a sudden.
And
I saw that change in Tom Green because
by the way, he was
friends.
this guy that he's talking about was 6'6" and 270 pounds.
Yeah.
And all I did was knock him out. But the point is, you have the right to defend yourself. You have the right to freedom of speech. And I think that's probably the biggest thing I like to equate to where I was and why I'm going to the Washoe County meeting is because people really don't seem to care about the First Amendment. They don't seem to care about a lot of the Constitution, the way they vote, these flock cameras, it goes on and on. You want me to tell you the first time I ever dealt with a flock camera?
Tell us the story about the flock camera. Since they're everywhere, they had 2 in Golden Valley, they cut them right off. And then I saw a guy went to jail like in Virginia for cutting off a flock camera, and 2,000 people gave him an alibi.
Right. Well,
they're like, it wasn't him. He wasn't me. No, he was here. He was there.
So the reason why I think the First Amendment is so big has to do with Washoe County too. When you go in for the Reno Toy Run and they're accusing you of doing something wrong because some guy, not you, has this patch on his patch, and they blame the whole community. Well, it's First Amendment on top of it. He has the right to wear that. And you have these commissioners who understand the First Amendment, or are supposed to, and should understand that the guy sitting there in the room didn't do anything wrong, illegal, at all. And yet they're sitting up there just right. But the other thing I find at the Washoe County meeting is how they treat people that come there to speak, and that they're not allowed to speak to them the way they should be able to speak to them. And what I mean by that is, the First Amendment says that somebody can have speech you don't like. In other words, if somebody wants to come in there and they don't like Alexis Hill, they should be able to come in there and say, hey, I don't like you. This is why I don't like you. You're bad. I believe this and that. And they have it so you can't address them that way. They move things to the back of the agenda so that you can't talk till after. And the most important thing of that meeting, I believe, starts with the First Amendment. I know Penny would agree with that, right?
Absolutely.
If you don't have that, you lose a lot. And then you can take all these other constitutional issues that you go down that they don't seem to care about when they're voting. So if you vote for a flock camera, I'm going to tell you about the first time as Hell's Angels we dealt with a flock camera. We were in Hollister, California, and we had a booth, and we were selling T-shirts. And so just so you know, we do very well selling T-shirts. And we could make as much as in a town like that, we could sell $30,000 and make a $12,000 profit one day. And, a lot of people look at that and they think, wow, they really make that much money. Yeah, we really sell thousands and thousands of T-shirts. Well, the cops knew we were going to have the booth there because you have to pre-rent them. You lease them, they're in a spot. And across the way in the second-story building, this room was all blacked out with visqueen, and you could just see like the head like this of a camera sticking out. And so, I guess if you want to say we have a rebellious side, this is definitely the rebellious side. So with my patch on in my booth, I took a laser and I tied it to the side of the booth and I put it so it hit that camera. And you could see in the room kind of this burst of light. So I knew it hit the camera because they had to have some kind of screen behind it, right? Well, a couple hours go by and a sign comes down and it says, "This is a police camera." And okay, so I went to Krispy Kreme and I bought a dozen donuts and I took the donut top and on the top I put "Bad Cop, No Donut," and I wrote, "We are the Hells Angel Motorcycle Club. We are not a criminal organization." And I just kind of had this little saying I would write. And it basically meant that we had the right to be there and we weren't doing anything illegal. And of course, that made them mad. So, yeah, so about an hour goes by and you can see about 25 cops over here. And you can see about 25 cops over here. And they kind of come and surround our booth. And next thing you know, they're grabbing people, cuffing people, throwing them against the wall. And the funny part is when the whole thing's over, they don't arrest me, but they arrest David and they arrest Will Romer. And they have nothing to do with putting the laser on. It was me. And you can see in the video, me walk right over, put the laser up, do the whole thing. And then they're charged with intimidating a police officer, assault on a police officer, breaking police equipment. There's like 4 charges.
Just stretching everything.
Yeah, yeah. And so they're 2 of them are arrested and they're charged with these crimes. So we have to go to Hollister and have a trial. Well, David, he hires this attorney who's a divorce attorney, and she really didn't know anything about criminal law or how to do a case. But what happens is they realized right off after they arrested David that David wasn't me. And so they kind of were like, "Oh, we got the wrong guy here. We got to let him go and rearrest me." So I turned myself into Hollister and we go down there. We have a 7-day misdemeanor trial. Well, all the cops that go to Sturgis that week or not Sturgis, I'm sorry, Hollister, aren't from Hollister. They're from, let's say, all over areas because they bring them in. And so there was about 50 of them. So I subpoenaed every single one of them. So what that means is every single one of them had to come to court and sit there. And so when I first got there, they were mad at me. All these cops are standing around going, "Were you really subpoenaing me? I have vacation and I can't go on my vacation." I go, "Well, I was at Hollister and I had to go to jail. So what are you talking about? Like, quit your whining, right? You're going to make me stay here the whole time?" I go, "I absolutely am going to make you stay here the whole time."
You can hold that for all night.
For the whole trial. So we're during jury selection. This lady stands up and she's older and she says, "I think the Hells Angels are guilty, and I'll just find them guilty if I'm put on the jury." So I pick her. She's the first juror.
Love that, Grandma.
That's what we call next level of pay.
Right.
Yeah.
So the funny thing about the whole thing is I have this, because now I have Dave's attorney and she's this divorce attorney, and she really didn't know what she was doing. I would kick her under the table and say, "Object," and she'd go, "Why?" And so I'd tell her, "Look, this is why you have to object, blah, blah, blah." She goes, "Well, we don't do that in our court." I go, "Well, you're going to do it now," you know? And the judge is like trying to tell her, "Okay, who's running this thing, him or you?" And she's like, "Well, I got to listen to my client." But anyways, I pick her. And we have a 7-day misdemeanor trial and we win, right? Which means we walk out of there because freedom of information or the First Amendment is really an important thing. And even though all these police and these cameras, they think it's okay, it really is not okay. And in the end, we won because of the First Amendment and the right to not be like just cameraed whenever they want and take whatever they want from you. Just because we were in the public, we had a booth, it didn't give them that right. And so I kind of look at it kind of like these flock cameras, but a long time ago, they started them with us. And
what year was that? Because they're all over now.
They're 2002.
Wow, so those things have been around this long?
That's when they started. So when it came to us and being bikers, that's when they started showing up to events we'd go to. So if we'd go to, like, let's say Sturgis, all of a sudden they had them on every corner. they're on wheels. They lift them up. They go up in the air, and they go in every direction, right? So they watch the whole crowd that way.
But you don't. Just to clarify for the people, you don't break the law. You don't crime for a living anymore. Like you don't live like off of illegal things.
I never
Like, how do you make your money
did.
besides?
I never have.
Yeah. So what do you do? I know that, but the people don't know that. Like, there's a lot of people who.
So just so you know, I had 11-month trial, and in that trial, I owned a commercial warehouse that was worth $1.5 million at the time. So we're talking going back to 93 to 95. So I would have bought my first home in about 80. So I graduated in 81. I think I bought my first home in about 85. And then I bought a commercial property about 89. I had a wholesale flower shop. It wasn't just mine. It belonged to my family, but I was a main part of that. So we worked hard all the time. Like when I was a kid, you had to go to work at 3 in the morning, and you'd get off about 3 in the afternoon. And if everything was good, that's how your day went every day. And I had grandparents that came from would be probably right around early 1900s. They were born, and so they lived through the Depression. They had a motel. When we were kids, we had to fold sheets. We had to make clean rooms. Like we had to work all the time, me and my brothers and sisters. That's the way it was.
So how do you think you got this bad boy
reputation? Well,
because where do you think that came from?
Because of my father. He calls it sins of the father. But when I was a kid, he was a safe cracker, boogler, whatever you want to call it, and he was world renowned. And what I mean by that is he was world famous. Everywhere he went, people knew who he was, what he did. And he hung out with a lot of the gangsters back in the day. So he golfed with them. So Tony Bennett, all these people that you talk about in the Rat Pack, he knew them all.
That's cool.
He hung out with them. He probably hung out with Spilatro and a few other guys like that. When they needed a safe crack, they probably called my dad, back in the day.
Yeah.
You're talking a long time ago.
God-given skills. I mean,
but
we're all good at what we do.
Right. But the thing that got me about the whole thing, and you can ask, there's quite a bit of people who follow me that went to school with me. I didn't live with my father. And that was the weird part. So Kimmers lived with my father. Ingrid lived with my father. Sean lived with my father. I lived with my mother in Sparks.
I love the nicknames.
Yeah.
That's his family.
Yeah, but I lived with my mother.
Oh, okay.
And so they lived in Reno, and I lived in Sparks. And I was harassed every single day. And I think it had to do with my last name, period. And so from there, everyone thought, well, hey, if your dad does that, you do too, right?
Okay.
But I had worked, so you know. When I was 14, I had enough money to buy my own car, and I bought it out of a bank account. So when I had my 11-month federal trial, the one thing the judge said to him is, look, everything he does is deposited into a bank through a check, and everything that comes out is deposited or taken out with another check or a card. Mm-hmm. Because they tried to take all these properties from me and do stuff, and the judge was like, I don't think you found that he's ever done anything wrong to the value of $1, right? Which, but I think because of all that, growing up in Reno, small town, and all the kids watching what would happen, they all thought that I was a gangster. Like, I'm telling you, I'd be at Reed High School, there'd be a party, and they'd come arrest it, and they'd go, okay, everyone could go, Troy, you're going to jail. Just like that. And I'd be like, it's not even my house. And they go, we don't care.
Well, I know that people think that you own brothels and you're this biker guy, and those aren't even your brothels, right?
No. So
explain that.
I did run brothels for about 20 years. And the reason I ran them had more to do with my knowledge of the law. So I don't know if a lot of people understand this, but every time they tried to close a brothel, it was my ideas that would go into a county commission meeting and stop them from happening. I was the one who would make the argument about whatever they're trying to do. Like, for instance, condoms was something that had to be used in brothels. Well, this is what would happen, so you have an idea. One day we'd get a letter, and it'd be from, I'm trying to think who it'd be. It'd be like the health department. Oh, you guys are throwing away too many condoms, blah, blah, blah. People are going to get disease, blah, blah, blah. We don't like the way you do it, so we're going to close you down, right? Even though what I would do is I would go to Washoe County and where the waste manage or where all the waste
the
came in,
environmental
and
health
I would
probably,
talk to
yeah.
them, and I'd say, well, how many condoms do you get here in Sparks at Vista? And it was so many more than us by thousands and thousands of millions. And I was like, okay, so what are you going to do to clean up Reno and Sparks and everything flushed down a toilet? Or are you just doing that out here? But what I did is I came up with well, what happened is I had gotten in a fight with this guy that was about 6'7", and he was
6'7", sorry.
Yeah, he was about 350, and I broke my finger when I hit him, and this was going on at the same time. Well, I broke it all the way back, and so when I was in the doctor's office, I noticed when they like took stuff off and they threw it in this red trash can. I asked him, I go, wow. How do you get rid of this waste? Like, you just cut a piece of my finger off. How do you get rid of it? And he goes, well, it has to all go into these red trash cans. It has to have a red trash bag. From there, it goes over to, I want to say it was St. Mary's. They have a big clavicle, and they burn it all to such a high temperature that there's nothing left, and it doesn't go into the air. So I was like, okay, that's what we're going to do. So I went to the St. Mary's, and I talked to him about if I could set it up and bring red trash bags and pay a fee, and absolutely. So I went in front of Story County, and I said, okay, this is how we're going to handle our condoms. This is what we're going to do, and then something else would come. Well, we burned our trash out there too. We had a big burner. Oh, well, you guys are polluting the air. Well, then I would solve that problem. That's what I did. Everything that happened, I solved. And so I would go in front of the commissions, I would go argue wherever I had to argue, and that's how I solved those problems. But I never owned a brothel, never wanted to own a brothel, didn't care to own a brothel. I was never in a brothel because of the girls. If you watch Dennis Hoff and all them, and they were always like touching the girls and stuff, I thought that was disrespectful. My style of running it was, I kept them at an arm's pace. I talked to them politely, and they talked to me politely, and we had a business relationship, period, right? I never went there. So when people say, oh, yeah, I want to open a brothel in Washoe County, no. I would like Washoe County to clean up the prostitution. And what I mean by that, if you look at Washoe County, and this goes back to when I run brothels, you have girls that are doing alcohol, you have girls in casinos, you have girls on 4th Street, you have girls running around, they're being gorilla pimped, they're being beaten, drugged, they're not cleaned, according to, and what I mean by clean is they're not going to a doctor regularly to make sure that they're doing things so they don't get disease. Because I believe the number one thing of a brothel when I ran it was that we had no issues, no problems, and we were out of sight, we were out of mind. In other words, I really didn't care if the community knew we were out there. We only needed the cab drivers to know we were out there because they brought them out there, and we gave them a Kelly cut. As far as that, we were quiet. We were never in the public that did we try to do anything because we thought, well, then someone's going to want to come and close us, right? And we ran it completely legal. So there's a big difference, but I would love to see Washoe County cleaned up. There's people that are against brothels. Well, they should start with Reno and Sparks.
Absolutely. I'm going to jump in real quick because my past is that I was in my younger days, I was part of a group of traffickers that would bring us back and forth from California to Nevada. And during that time, everything that you just said would have been so nice. We were forced to do things we didn't want to do. We were pulled from our families. I remember times my daughter was in a hotel with these later on murderers. Like, it was exactly what you're saying. I didn't have that protection. And it's almost a mental thing, because now that I'm so far away from those, being trafficked days, that I still have the mentality that sometimes men can take advantage of me, and that's happened recently where, I needed some services done in my house, and there was a gentleman, he was very nice and, going to help me out. And as soon as I said no, he took my money and took off. And you feel so embarrassed because you're like, how are people still living like this, and you were very kind to me. You're like, hey, I heard you had this issue. And I'm like, I was even embarrassed to come to you, but to know that there are people out there like you to take care of the women and to take care of everybody. And I know as soon as you get up to county commissioner, the people will have that safety that we have lost. I know what you did for Reno when they had those Antifa riots, those BLM riots, your ties go back so deep here that business owners, generational
Yes.
business owners,
Yes.
and they have that trust in you to call you when things go down. So tell us what happened when BLM and Antifa went downtown and they broke all the glass in the city. So I'm not from Reno, I'm from Sun Valley, but I saw
Right.
they were rioting downtown,
Well,
and the cops weren't doing anything. Like, what happened
yeah,
there?
so that's really a sad deal. And what basically happened is the first night they came to town, they had their big stage there in that Believe parking lot, or I guess they call it a park. I'm not quite sure what they call it, where that Believe sign
I think
is
it's a
right
Believe
downtown.
Plaza. That's what they're calling it.
And whatever they want to call it. But they had broken windows, and across Cat Corner from that building is called the Antique Angel. And the Antique Angel is she marries people, and she's been marrying people there for over 50 years.
Yes, she was my second marriage. Thank her.
Right.
Thank you. She was wedding number 2.
And she's a really nice lady, and she was older, and she calls me the day after that first riot crying. Mm-hmm. And I guess they break all her windows in the front of her place where her wedding chapel was. And she needed a bunch of roses because she was marrying someone. And this isn't someone who buys a lot of flowers for me. You're talking maybe a couple $100 a year, maybe $500. But, it all adds up. You take care of every customer, no matter how big they are, and you make sure they're always happy. And so I rode my motorcycle over, and I sat down with her, and I listened to her cry, and she pulled out this piece of paper, and it was from the city of Reno. And it basically told her that she needed to vacate her premise and not be there because they were coming back again, and they were going to riot, and the city couldn't protect them. And she showed me this piece of paper, and it was from the city of Reno. And I could not believe it. I about lost it right there. And I told her, I said, hey, you don't have to leave. I said, I will come back and protect you.
So what did this letter say? You read the letter.
Yeah, the letter.
What did it say exactly?
The letter basically said that BLM would be back for a second night, and that the chances are there would be heavy riots, and that there wouldn't be enough police to protect anyone, and they should vacate their premise. In other words, they should not be in their businesses. And so it broke my heart to watch this old lady who lived upstairs, by the way, say, well, I can't be here. I don't know where I'm going to go, blah, 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 blah. And I thought, really? That's all the city's going to do for you? I was more than mortified about the whole thing. So what I did is I told her I'll be back. And I said, I'll be back. What time they're supposed to be here? 7? Okay, we'll be here at 7. And I went home, and I made about 20 phone calls to different motorcycle clubs in Northern Nevada. There's over 50 of them. And I said, hey, come down with me at 7. We're going to go down to the Believe Plaza. And what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that these rioters don't affect any of our friends. And so when we went down there, we had about 250 folks.
And we're talking about the COC.
Yeah,
This is okay.
Northern Nevada
This
Confederation
is how it's
Clubs.
all connected. The people need to know that, like, they kind of separate you like an individual, but you have the backing. When you see a motorcycle, you think Troy. That's what I think, and that's how it is. Like,
well, there's more than me, and I hate to think it's just me. We're all individuals, and we're all equal. Like, the one thing about the COC is I might be the chairman, but I don't vote. And that's my rule, because I don't want people to think I'm too influential in there. Like that I throw my weight around, tell everyone what to do. So I'm the only person in that room who doesn't vote.
And that's called accountability, and that's what we need.
Right.
That's also voting integrity as well.
Yep,
Right.
absolutely.
Right. And there's a reason for it. So, but we all go down there, and we're lined up on the Virginia side, from the bridge all the way down to, is it 2nd Street, on the corner of 2nd Street, 1st Street, or Virginia and 2nd? That's where it is, right? Where the plaza is and where the Reno City Council is, right there. So we're lined up, 250 guys, that's a lot of guys, right? And so we're lined up, and Black Lives Matter took a notice to us, and there was a guy named Ash Sobey. And Ash Sobey is a great guy. He was from Iran, and he left because of religion. He was going to be killed, basically, because he was a Christian. And so he left Iran as a child. And he's talked into being a person who films and photographs the whole Black Lives Matter thing. Well, he comes over to me and he goes, "Hey, can I ask what you're doing?" And I said, "Yeah, we're just here to make sure everything's peaceful." He goes, "Well, what do you mean by that?" And I go, peaceful. Like, if they want to get up there and talk and have a good time, let them. But let's not break any windows or doors, or let's not ruin anyone's property, etc. And he goes, "Okay," and he leaves, and then he comes back, and he's got the Black Lives Matter people with him. There's about 8 to 10 of them, let's say. And so they come back and they're like, "Oh, can we talk to you?" And I'm like, "Of course you can talk to me." They go, "Well, the girl from Black Lives Matter, the head girl, started to explain to me that their voice was the damage. That was their voice. So the guy who died, what was it, Floyd?
Yeah.
Right? That's how they got his name out, by doing this damage." And so I just simply explained to her the way it works in Reno and Sparks. I go, "Look, we're not racist here in Northern Nevada, never have been. Reno's not a racist town." I go, "But I'll tell you what, if you guys have a problem, you have 2,000 people over there, you could go into that city council room and you can take up 6,000 minutes of their time." "Oh, that doesn't work." I go, "Yeah, it doesn't always work for us either." And then she started talking about voting. "Well, who we vote for don't win." "Well, who we vote for doesn't always win either." That's how politics work. And every time she was trying to make it like a bad thing, and I was just explaining to her, "Look, it works the same for both sides, whether you like it or not. You don't get to choose who wins. The people do." And
you would think that's something we can both come together on, is at least voter integrity. But as soon as you talk about it, all of a sudden you're the enemy.
Yeah.
Right? Like people don't want to talk to Penny right now because she sent an email. Like, how immature is that?
It's very immature, because once again, that's freedom of speech.
Yep.
And everyone should have their right to speak, whether you like it or not. That's the number one thing about freedom of speech. And like, I don't understand that people don't like it. It's like someone will say, "Oh, well, I don't like your podcast." Well, turn it off. You don't like it. Go watch something else. Go watch Andy Griffith or something, whatever it is. But so she comes and we're talking, and I explained to her basically that we're not going to allow her to break any windows or doors. And she goes, "Well, what will you do?" And, my mom's always mad at me about this. My mom's
I love this story.
a Christian, and she never likes when I talk stern or violent. But when you talk to people that are violent, there's only one thing they understand. That's violence. Right. And so I just told her, "Throw a rock, we'll break your arm. Kick a door, we'll break your leg. That easy." I go, "Try it, see what we do." And she looked at me and she looked at the 250 bikers and said, nope, we'll be peaceful. And I go, okay, thank you. And as long as you're peaceful, you can stand up there and you guys can say whatever you want. We don't care. All we care is you're peaceful. That's what a protest should be. You should be within your boundaries, wherever you're allowed to protest according to the law, because you can't protest everywhere either.
Yep.
You know, there are rules for protest on top of it, like what corners you can be on, what's public property, what isn't public property, etc. And so she told me they were going to be peaceful. They were peaceful. Well, let's back up a little bit. As I'm talking to her, she whispers to one of her girls, and her girl runs from where we're at. We're on the Virginia side all the way to the lake side. And I see her talking to a bunch of guys in black. And what I mean by black is they have black hats, they have black bandanas, they have black glasses, black shirts, black backpacks, shoes. Like, it's black, right? If you pick a color, that's what they're wearing. And she's talking to them, and within a minute, you see these 3 big Econoline vans pull up, and you see about 30 guys jump in, and they all leave. And I told someone, I go, there goes Antifa. I go, this thing will be peaceful now.
And was it?
Oh, yeah, because they're the ones who agitate it and get the crowd going, too. It's because there's more to it. If you don't understand how they do it, those 30 guys from Antifa, they only get the ball rolling, you know, and then when you have 2,000 people behind them, then all of a sudden the crowd's involved too, right?
Unpredictability goes
Right.
up the unpredictable parts of that goes.
Right. And so they left, and it was peaceful. And when they left, we left. And believe it or not, because the police really never talked to me, they came to bikers around, and they told them, hey, tell Troy thank you. We were told we couldn't be here. They were told they had to be out of a certain area. So the city had told the police department basically hands off.
Not engaged.
And not only hands off, but like, you know, if this is the area, whatever the area is, they had to be well beyond. So, which is worse because the people didn't see the cops like they were going to do anything. So if you're
Which increases the fear.
sure, or for these people like Antifa to go out and break something, right? So that's basically what happened. And they left, we left, and we were happy. And I will be talking to that gentleman. We'll be getting the video of exactly what was said and what happens. And maybe we'll get him on a show too, just to show you how it went from his perspective and how we acted. You know, because of course, then you have people go, "Oh, you're a thug, you're this, you're that." And it's like, yeah,
Yes.
I was probably, out of everything I do, I'm going to say I was a thug that day, that night, and
I wouldn't call you that.
The only thing
No.
you did get arrested.
No.
I would
but I'm just saying,
call
Yeah.
you as like a neighborhood watch.
right?
He was a Batman right there. He was
But
really-
if you have
now,
to
he
tell
did
someone
hear
not
us
to
that
do something,
day.
you have to do it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, could I tie this into going back to the county commission
Please.
when you know they were being given the money for the children for Christmas, and then they weren't, and Alexis Hill is like having, you know, continued to say, oh, you know, they're a motorcycle gang or whatever, and so his opponent now, Mary Luz Garcia, she's right there with Alexis Hill because they're the two Democrats. So this goes on for several meetings. You'll have to watch more than one
I do
meeting.
need to look into
And
it.
so finally what happens, and of course by this time many of us, I mean I go to every county commission, but other people start to show up because this is an ongoing thing and it's really interesting. So what happened, so we the people can only speak for 3 minutes.
Right.
So Troy goes up there to speak on the agenda item about, again, whether or not to give the money to the children.
Yeah.
So Troy goes up there and he looks at Mary Luz Garcia and he goes, I'm here today to tell you I'm running for your seat in the next election. So this is how we got to where we are today and why
Right.
Troy Regas is running.
Right.
Because Mary Luz Garcia didn't want to give the money to the children. So what happened, I don't think it was that meeting, but then there was another meeting about whether or not to give, and the county commission had to vote on it again.
Yeah.
So it had to be back on the agenda again.
Right.
So then what happened, it was like a miracle.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, so Jeannie Herman and Mike Clark were voting for the money to be given to the children for Christmas.
Absolutely.
So at that meeting, Clara Andriola, she changed her vote to vote with Troy.
Yeah, she was the first one that changed, right?
And so then Mara Luz Garcia, she gave this apology like, well, blah, blah, but I've decided I'm going to vote to give the money for the children for Christmas. And the whole time, because she's so afraid of Alexis Hill, she's like giving this apology to Alexis Hill. And I'm sitting there, we need a county commissioner in that District 3 seat that will be an independent person to vote for the good of the people and represent the people of his district and Washoe County, because when you elect a commissioner, they represent the people in their district, but their vote also counts for all of us.
All of us,
in Washoe County. And that's why I personally am supporting Troy Regas. We need him on the county commission seat. We need his vote for we the people, and someone that won't be afraid to stand up to someone like Alexis Hill.
Well, I think the one thing you guys are going to find from me and everything I've dealt with in all these cases I tell you about, these law enforcement cases or dealing with people, is that I have no issue standing up to anybody. And I think you're going to see a transfer of how I did that to how I come into county politics and I stand up to people. And I don't care who it is. If I think they're wrong, I'm going to stand up to them. And I was taught that way, question authority from being a tiny kid. Even in school, when a teacher told you something that you didn't think was right. My grandfather, who only graduated from the 3rd grade, who had his wholesale flower shop, who was probably the smartest man I ever knew, he used to tell me, like, I'd go to school and tell him, well, Grandpa, in business school, they told me this. And my grandpa would say, well, if you do that, I can tell you right now, you're not going to be in business, And so I would go to school and tell the teacher, and she would get all mad about it. And I go, well, look, you might be mad about it, but my grandfather actually runs a business. And so I'm going to believe him and not you. And that would really make him mad, right? But at the same time, I love my grandparents, and they were very smart people. And as a kid, I followed them around. And so, and that's kind of the funny part about the whole thing of everyone thinking I was my dad's child. I was more my grandfather's child and my grandmother's child and my mother's child than I was my father's child. And I don't think my dad ever really realized how much they came after me until recently. And I think recently he told me, he goes, I think the cops hate you more than they hated me. And I was like, yeah, that might be true, Dad. But they hated him, and that's why it all started for me as my last name. And so as I grow up, it's because of my last name. Eventually I become a Hell's Angel, and it just like,
that
it just grows, right? But it's not because I was doing anything wrong, because I wasn't. I was working 50 hours a week. At the time when I'm starting the club, I have 3 jobs. I'm running a wholesale florist, I'm running a brothel, and I have a lease business. So it's not like I wasn't a busy person, and people who know me know how busy I was. And I was busy all the time. I was I worked. Woke up at 3 a.m. and 10 o'clock at night when I went to bed, I was done working.
Hardworking man.
So,
we all are. Like I said, I had to get.
Could I just
5
say
jobs.
this about Troy's opponent, Mara Luz Garcia, who's a radical leftist Democrat? She's from Winnemucca. She's not even from Reno.
Elko. She's from Elko.
I'm sorry. She's from Elko. That's right, Elko. And then she comes to Reno to go to UNR. And she gets her doctorate in DEI.
Diversity, equity,
She's
inclusion.
very woke.
Yeah.
And she does not represent the people in in Troy's district, the people in Sun Valley and so on. She doesn't
Audie
represent them.
Boulevard.
Yeah.
And so what we need people to do, because it's going to take those people in that district voting. And I would just encourage them, if you live in that district, you need to get out and vote. Vote for Troy Regas. We need him on the city council. Do you know your property taxes went up again July 1st?
Yep.
Mhm.
Well, that rests with the county commissioners.
Yep.
There is a baseline per Nevada law,
3%
but
a year.
then what they say is, but the county commissioners can decide whether or not they want to raise property taxes. They don't have to. And Washoe County has got more money than they know what to do with. And so that would be another huge benefit. If you don't want your property taxes to keep going up again,
Or
if you're
your-
a young family, or you rent, your rent's going to go up. Or if you're a senior, you're on fixed income, you can't afford to have your property taxes to keep going up over 3% every year. What will that mean in 10 years?
Right.
So
Everybody
that
would be
vote,
homeless and broke.
Yep.
that vote is dependent on the county commissioners, which most people don't. So there again, the county commissioners decide how we will vote. They could make a vote that we will get paper ballots and hand counting. They can vote not to raise the property tax, or they could even vote to lower it.
Yeah,
the
that
property
would be
taxes.
something, huh? Vote to
They
lower
have
taxes.
that right.
I
And
think we can run on that.
Yeah.
right. And
Yeah.
we need
Oh,
a good audit. I mean, I cannot believe as I go to meeting after meeting, all the goofy things they vote to spend our money on.
Oh yeah.
Do you know that they just gave the Andrew McDonald, our elections manager, $3 million out of the budget? It's like a checkbook.
Yeah.
No
Why?
It
accountability.
shouldn't never be a
Yeah.
checkbook.
Yeah. Well, we're
Exactly.
about out of time here. So
Okay.
I thank everybody for
Yeah.
coming
Thanks
in.
for having us. I appreciate
Absolutely.
you.
And we're definitely going to be campaigning together, you and I. We have
Yes,
a
we
block
are.
party coming up,
Yep.
Entrepreneur Fair in Sun Valley. And if you have any questions about Troy, any misconceptions, and you're maybe nervous to talk to him, or you just talk to me, hit me up. Troy and I are campaigning together. One thing I just did want to touch on, and I said I would talk about, was the animal services, Washoe County Animal Services. They had an incident 4 days ago where they had locked the dog outside, Meatball. He was a black and white, like pit bull or something. They had locked him outside so they can clean the cage. But what happened was, because of his breed, he got overheated, got in distress, and they had to take him to the Blue Pearl emergency vet, and they had to put the dog down. So I will be looking more into this. I know we were all upset about how they're supposed to be taking care of our animals, and they're actually not.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a lot of time to cover this. What do you think about animal abuse? Like, what do you think
I
about
hate
those
it.
people?
Hate it.
You
But-
have dogs.
but-
You have a dog.
Yes. But also go to Facebook, vote Troy Regas, and check me out. And yeah, don't hurt animals.
Absolutely. So we are here. We had a